With the official Segway application servers in the cloud shutdown as of January 2025, there currently is no way to get past the provision app for verifying your Loomo if you have not already done so. This video and associated GitHub repository will provide you a way to perform a jailbreak on the Loomo robot to get around this and restore most functionality. Make sure you have all prerequisite software downloaded and installed. This includes a computer with Ubuntu, the Fastboot and ADB utilities, along with Intel Platform Flash Tool Lite. Test that Fastboot is working by doing fastboot -- help on the computer, and you should see some text. If it says command not found, please make sure it is installed and working before proceeding. Have a USB-C data cable plugged into your computer, and make sure the Loomo is off and laying on a table or the ground resting on its arms. You should also have a USB keyboard with you. Proceed with plugging the keyboard into the USB-C port on the back of Loomo's head. Note that you might need a USB-C adapter dongle for the keyboard to be able to connect to it. After plugging in the keyboard, we'll proceed with turning the Loomo on by hitting the main power button. Right after that, you should trigger the button on Loomo's head to open the head and flip it towards yourself. You will then need to quickly spam the delete key on your keyboard until the BIOS comes up. Make sure you are spamming the delete key when the Segway Robotics logo shows up. If for whatever reason you miss the opportunity and it boots like normal, you can always turn Loomo off and try again. Okay, now we are in the BIOS of Loomo. From here, we are going to use the arrow keys on the keyboard to navigate to the Advanced tab, and then down to the System Component row. Hit Enter to go into it. Now arrow key down until you find the row labeled DNX Fast Boot Mode, and hit Enter and arrow key up to select the Enabled option, and then press Enter to set this as the value for DNX Fast Boot Mode. Then, press the Escape key and navigate to the Save and Exit tab. Now, with the Save Changes and Exit row highlighted, grab your USB-C cable that is plugged into your computer and have it handy. Once we save and exit, you will need to quickly replace the keyboard with the USB-C cable of the computer so that we can get a fast boot connection from the Loomo to the computer. The Segway Robotics logo will appear with text on the side saying DNX Fast Boot Mode. Now on the computer, open up a terminal window and type in Fast Boot Devices. Make sure a device shows up. If a device does not show up, you likely did not plug in the USB-C cable quick enough, and will have to power off and redo the BIOS DNX Fast Boot Mode step. Now, open up the Intel Platform Flash tool, and you should see a device connected on there as well. Hit the Browse button and find your userdebug.zip file and select it. It may take a minute or two while it unzips this file. Make sure the option blank is selected in the second drop-down, and hit the wrench/screwdriver icon, and make sure both options are off inside of that dialog. Once you have all of that confirmed, you can then press the Start to Flash button. As a side note, make sure your Loomo has at least 75% battery life before starting the flashing. You will then see the flash progress bar start to move forward, as well as console text on Loomo's screen update, as it is being flashed with the rooted Android image. The rooted Android image will allow us to have root ADB access at boot up time, which will give us the ability to bypass the provision app and ultimately jailbreak the Loomo so it can be used again. The flashing can take several minutes, so wait for it and monitor its progress. It will reboot, and the first boot up may also take several minutes even after the flashing is complete. If it takes more than 30 minutes, you may be stuck in a boot loop or other problem. It is best in that case to power the Loomo off and try again from the first step of putting the Loomo in DNX fast boot mode and reflashing. You can see now that we successfully completed the flashing, and now Loomo will reboot and reconfigure itself for a few minutes, and we will await seeing the language selection screen of the Provision app. This first boot up can take a few minutes as mentioned. You can leave the USB-C data cable plugged in, as we will need to use an ADB shell shortly after the first boot up finishes. Okay, after the first boot up is complete, we should see the language selection page of the Provision app. From here, we can close the Intel Platform Flash tool and get started with ADB. One other thing you should make sure of is that you get clone or otherwise download the Loomo Jailbreak repo to your computer, as we will need it soon. Now, open up a new terminal window and type in ADB devices and confirm your Loomo shows up. If it says offline, simply unplug and replug in one end of the USB-C data cable. After that, you can type in ADB devices and it should show up correctly. Next, we want to type in ADB root to restart our ADB connection in the root mode. This is the main reason we needed to flash the rooted Loomo Android image. It gave us the ability to get a rooted shell into the Loomo at boot up, which will be important for getting around the Provision app. Okay, we now need to type in ADB shell, which launches an interactive root shell with Loomo, where we can type in commands to Loomo itself. Our first command in this root shell will be setproprow.robot.mode-gx. Again, you can find all these commands in the write-up on GitHub. What this does is set the Loomo to be a special kind of Loomo that the Provision app will recognize and allow us to skip certain parts of it. You can also use the getprop command as shown to confirm it was set correctly. We can exit that root shell for now. Next, open a new terminal window and navigate to where you have the Loomo Jailbreak repo on your computer. We will now be launching the fake verification server, which is a web server that has endpoints that the official Segway application servers had, which the Provision app listens for a response from. Confirm first that you have Python 3 and pip installed on your computer. Also, if this is your first time, you will likely need to pip install Flask, which is the web server component that the Python program uses. Okay, now we will launch the fake verification server by typing in Python 3 fake underscore verification underscore server.py. When the fake verification server launches, you will see your machine's IP address that it has from your local Wi-Fi network. We will be using this IP address to update the activate URL file found in the repo. Please update that file with your computer's local IP address. And we need to make sure that when we do connect Loomo to a Wi-Fi network, that it is put on the same Wi-Fi network as your computer, so Loomo can reach the fake verification web server. Now, copy the activate URL file from the repo onto the Loomo's root file system. On Ubuntu, you can do this by opening another File Explorer window of the Loomo's internal storage. On Ubuntu, sometimes the Loomo shows up as a mobile device called VA50EC. Okay, the next step is going to be on the Loomo, where we will select a system language and then proceed with selecting a Wi-Fi network. Again, make sure you choose the same one that your computer is currently connected to. Once you have your Wi-Fi credentials typed in, go ahead and press the Connect button. You will see on the fake verification server that a request was made by the Provision app, and we returned a response to it that makes it think everything succeeded. The Loomo will now go to the Android launcher. We need to reboot Loomo after the fake verification in order to restore the functioning of Loomo's ears as home button presses and a few other things like that. Open a terminal window and type in ADB root, then ADB shell, and in the root shell, type reboot and Loomo should reboot. You can also physically turn Loomo off and back on if you prefer that method. Now that Loomo has rebooted after the fake verification server step, we will now focus on restoring the robot main app, also known as the Loomo I app. To do so, open up a ADB root shell and type in the 2pm commands you can find in the GitHub repo for this section. This re-enables the robot main app so it can show up on the Android launcher and be launched from there. Then, launch the robot main app, as this will initialize a few things we will need later. Once the loading spinner completes, tap on the screen and just make sure the apps show up. When you exit the robot main app, it may ask you what you want to set as the home launcher. For now, choose Android Launcher and press Always for that option. This can be changed later. Okay, the next step after restoring the robot main app is to restore the Loomo skills. Because the Loomo mobile app is no longer available from the App Store, this is really the only way to do this now. The skills control things like your ability to say, "Okay, Loomo," and have it follow you around inside the robot main app. Open a new terminal window and also have the Loomo Jailbreak documentation handy so you can copy and paste commands. We will get an ADB root shell and start typing in the commands under the Restore Skills section, starting with opening the SQLite database that contains the skills records. We will then update each skill record one by one. After all skills are updated, we can run a command after that just to ensure all of them are updated, which will be indicated by there being a 2 in each row. After that, we type .exit to get out of editing the SQLite database. After this, we need to reboot Loomo, and then we will check if the skills actually work. Once rebooted after the skills updates, we can test the skills by opening the robot main app and saying, "Okay, Loomo," and then say, "Follow me," and Loomo should activate its Follow Me activity. I will cut for brevity. One more thing we need to do now is to set a user ID, which you can do by getting a root shell into Loomo and typing in the user_ID command, which is the following. Settings put secure user_ID admin. You can also find this command in the relevant section on GitHub. Because of the procedure we did earlier where we set the robot mode to GX, the Loomo is currently in its developer mode, and you can see this in the Settings app. If you want to go back to user mode, where the robot main app is the main activity that gets launched on boot instead of the Android launcher, you can turn off the Loomo developer toggle. This will reboot the Loomo back into user mode. This is not a part of the jailbreak, just an extra explanation if you want to go back to user mode, and we will also address how to get back to developer mode. Here you can see Loomo booting into user mode, where the robot main app is launched on boot. I don't really recommend this mode because it locks down some of the settings, at least on the UI side of things. But it is the easiest way to have the robot main app start on boot if that is what you are looking for. There are other ways to get the robot main app to start on boot if you are interested, which you can look up other tutorials on just generic Android. How do I make this app start on boot? If you are ever on user mode and want to get back to developer mode, You will need to place the settings _test_URL file on the Loomo's internal storage and make sure that you first update that file to contain your computer's local IP address before placing the file. Then you will need to launch the fake verification server we used earlier. And now you can go to the Settings app, find the Loomo Developer tab, and toggle the switch on. This will reboot your Loomo back into developer mode. One other thing to mention during this section, when going from user mode back to developer mode, every time you do that, you will need to re-enable the Robot main app if you want to be able to see it from the developer mode Android launcher. You can simply rewatch that earlier section and use the same commands as demonstrated before. Again, this is only needed each time you go from user mode to developer mode. If you never go to user mode, or otherwise don't care to use the Robot main app in developer mode, you can skip worrying about this. All right, here we are. We have the settings test URL file with the computer's local Wi-Fi IP address on it, copied into Loomo's internal storage directory and the fake verification server running. Once we switch the toggle to turn on developer mode, Loomo will reboot, and afterwards we will find ourselves in developer mode when it finishes booting. Okay, this is our last step now. If you notice an icon over the normal battery icon on the Loomo, this means you have a speed limit enabled. This gets enabled by the Provision app in some cases. To remove it, make sure you are in developer mode and that you have your computer connected to the Loomo over USB-C data cable and that ADB is working. Next, you will want to open up a terminal window and navigate to where you have the GitHub repo. Then you will want to type in adb install Loomo restore v1.apk. Once you have confirmed that the Loomo Restore app has installed successfully, you will want to open the Android Launcher app drawer and find the Loomo Restore app and open it. Immediately upon opening the Loomo Restore app, you should see the speed limit icon disappear. This means the Loomo no longer has an artificially slow speed limit imposed on it, and you can reach the maximum speed just fine now. Congratulations! You have successfully jailbroken your Loomo robot and restored all functionality that is possible. If this video and documentation helped you, consider throwing me some beer money at buymeacoffee.com/Nulik. Cheers.